What's up everybody, Unrested here, and just going to start out by showing you the drink of the day, or I should say the night when I'm filming this because I'm not drinking in the middle of the day. This is 9% strong lemon flavored Chuhai. It's nice, let me tell you. Gonna be sipping on that while I film this video. If you don't like that, guess what? Don't care. Anyway, here's a little update on the Poke collection. Got myself a Pikachu and a Satoshi, not Ash, because this is Japan. Okay, let's take a look here. Turn around and get to the real heart of the subject, everybody's questions. Alright, Ricardo starts with the first question. Hey, I was wondering what types of American snacks are popular in Japan, such as Snickers. Actually, Snickers are popular here. We do have Snickers sold at Konbinis. And actually, for a very short, limited time, we had Twix, too. But now, Twix, you left me. Oh, Twix. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. Yeah, unfortunately, Twix is gone. And, let's see, other popular American snacks. M&M's are popular. Ritz crackers. Saltines. And I'm trying to think of ones that are not sold at like foreign food stores. They're sold in Konbinis and grocery stores. They have their own brand of potato chips. Oh, surprisingly, what's the one in the can? Pringles. That's the one. Pringles chips are really popular here, and there's a company called Chipstar that totally ripped off their style by selling them in a little cylinder-shaped box, cone, cylinder tube. There you go. The alcohol's already getting to me. I'm only taking one sip and I'm wasted. Alright, Connor says, hey Scott, I know you said about piercings in a different video and said if you wanted piercings, you'd have to get them done at a hospital. That's true. But would there be anywhere I would be able to purchase custom jewelry in Osaka? Yeah. Custom jewelry is going to be in Amemura. That's probably going to be the only place. Amemura, Amerikamura, American Village. For those of you who don't speak the Nihongo, you can go down there. It's the counterculture, urban underground, subculture, store shop, Times Square wannabe area of Osaka. You can find all kinds of crazy stuff there. Definitely that's where I've picked up some of my own spacers and stuff. Just be ready to pay a high price. They're really outrageously priced, so that kind of sucks. Let's see. Michael says, can you really go in on people when they ask stupid questions or repeat a question? It's starting to become my favorite part of your videos. I don't want to get too harsh with that, Michael. I do hate repeated questions, especially ones that are easily Googled, and ones like, I want to be an actor in Japan, but I don't speak any Japanese, or I want to be a doctor, but I don't speak any Japanese. How can I do that? I really hate, those are the questions I hate the most. But I really can't rip in on people too much because in their defense, I do have like 240 something videos at this point, so I guess I really can't expect everybody to watch all of them. I'm not that self-indulgent. Victor says, hey Scott, I don't know if you've ever mentioned this, but why is your nickname Unrested? Oh, Victor, you've asked this questions just as I made a video called Unrested Origins. If you go look at my previous JFAQ, it's called Unrested Origins. You can find all about my name on that. It is a good question though, and for Victor, he asked this while I was putting that video up, so he's totally in the clear. No one, rip on him for that. Koi, am I saying that right? Just Koi? Do you listen to any J noise like The Boredoms, Melt Banana, or Acid Mother's Temple? Oh, Koi, you haven't watched my earlier videos, have you? For those of you that are the most die-hard Unrested fans, if you go back to my older videos, you'll see that actually one of my intros include Melt Banana. So obviously that answer is yes. Alex says, let's say you've had a horrible accident at home and you're all alone. How would you call for help when there is no street names? Can they track your phone? Yeah, they can easily track your phone. Obviously, they can ping a cell phone in Japan because there's way more cell phone towers than there is in America, like, and compressed into a space is what I mean. You're okay, don't worry. And in Japan, in case you don't know, emergency number is the opposite of America. It's 119. I'm not joking at all. It's 119. Ashley says, are you going to watch Pacific Rim? I love the kaiju versus robot fights. Does everybody know what kaiju are? Kaiju are your giant monsters in Japan, and that includes all giant monsters, everything from Godzilla to the different type that Kamen Rider fight. And actually, even that movie, what was it called? Cloverfield? That movie was just called Kaiju here in Japan. So, pretty interesting, huh? Kaiju. Am I going to see that movie? I'd probably wait till it comes to video, honestly. I don't know. Maybe if it gets like crazy good reviews, I'll go to the theater to see it. But these days, I'm not so into CGI movies. Sorry. Camilo asks, hey Scott, thanks for the attention. I think your JFAQs are priceless and no one could naturally replace them. Well, thank you, Camilo. Have you ever thought about doing your art on a graphics tablet? Oh, Camilo, I've already got you covered. This is a bamboo pad. So I think that answers your question quite easily. Alright, what's your next question? Do people in Japan converse about Mac versus PC? Not so much. I think what you'd find in Japan is anybody who's not a graphic designer tends to use a very cheap PC because PCs aren't really too expensive here. But almost anybody who's a graphic designer tends to use a Mac, and they just consider, if you're a graphic designer, you're probably using a Mac. They don't really argue over which one's better. Probably if someone said PC's better for graphic design, a Japanese person might have a problem with that because even they believe a Mac is a lot better for that. This day and age, is it really? I guess it could be argued both ways. Honestly, my biggest problem with PC is I've had tons of PCs just go to shit. I've never really had that happen much with a Mac, but on Mac's negative side, I've had a lot of their stuff physically break from only being dropped once, like an iPad. Like, I dropped it on a leather chair one time and the screen cracked. Now, if I dropped it on hard concrete, I would understand that, but I dropped it on a leather chair, it bounced, and then fell onto a very soft laminated floor and the screen cracked and I had to pay for a replacement plan. Also, how many people have had an iPhone break out there, huh? Come on, man. And one time, my wife dropped one of our laptops and that screwed it up seriously. It didn't break, but I don't know what the hell went wrong with it. I gave it to, the Cajun Gaijin? That guy's a badass with computers and he fixed it up nice. All right, good question. And, number 3. Are there any opportunities for upcoming foreign university graduates of computer science majors inside of Japan? I'm going to ask you a very important question, Camilo. How serious are you about your future career? Are you serious enough that you would ask a guy who doesn't work in graphic design? Because, I'm an illustrator, like hand, ink, pencil illustrator. So I really don't have any knowledge of that field. Also, it's your university and your future career, so I would try researching that yourself. I really don't know about what the job market is like for that because I'm not currently searching for a job. Daniel says, do you know any Japanese drinking games? If so, what are they? Oh, drinking games. Good time to ask me about that while I'm drinking. I don't know any drinking games that are particularly only Japanese play it. I'm sure they exist. I will say there's one interesting thing I will tell you about with a Japanese drink, the sake bomb. Not sake, okay? Don't ever say sake because people be like, what the hell are you talking about? Sake bomb. How does that work? You take a glass, you put it down, you've got 2 chopsticks and you put it on top. You set the shot of sake in here and you've got your beer underneath. Your namabiru or your, what they call like the fake beer here in Japan, which is beer flavored water with shochu in it. You pull out the chopsticks and drop it in and then guzzle the whole thing down really fast. It works out pretty cool because the chopsticks literally roll away and I guess you just have to do it. All right, let's move on. Jay says, thanks for answering my last question. When answering someone's question about Japanese pen pals in the last video, you mentioned that Facebook is a place to meet Japanese people. Do Japanese people frequently use Facebook to meet new people? Where I'm from, it's considered strange to add people who you don't know beforehand in real life. I wouldn't say Japanese people use networking sites to meet people in person, but they do use dating sites to meet people for dates. Actually, meeting people in person in Japan is still a little bit looked at as kind of like shaky or shady or a bit mysterious or weird. It's not that common yet. So I'd say as of right now, not quite so much, but there are particular dating and meeting and friend sites that are made just for that, and they are heavily used in Japan. Devin says, this question is for you, my friend. Is there anyone you draw inspiration from while growing up? Anyone that inspired you, or a paternal type figure you looked up to or still look up to? Gosh, not so much. There was like artists who I really liked when I was younger, who I looked up to and thought were really amazing. Obviously, some of my stuff's influenced by Geiger, or Giger. Am I saying that right? I don't know. H.R. Geiger. I should know the person. Also, Big Daddy Rolf. Copied a lot of his stuff. I mean, I literally copied the stuff to pick up their techniques. And I'd say I looked up to them as far as art, but as far as a paternal, my parents were pretty awesome parents, so I was already pretty inspired by them. I think they've given me a lot of smarts, know-how, and courage to get through life. I didn't really need much beyond that. Mom and Dad, huh? Big shout out to you. Richard says, question 1. Dude, you like my Celery Man drawing I messaged you? Guys, he sent me a really funny Celery Man picture. If you guys didn't watch my last JFAQ, I talked about Salary Man, but someone wrote Celery Man, which was a big laugh for everybody. You know what, Richard? I'm going to go ahead. If you don't mind, I'm going to post that picture on this video while I'm talking in the middle of it, and people can take a look at what we're talking about. It's kind of funny. Two, oh, and I did like the picture, by the way. 2, have you ever visited the Blue Pond in Hokkaido? I have not visited that. I did visit a really nice zoo in Hokkaido. If you go to the zoo in Sapporo, it's beautiful. I highly recommend it. Postmortem says, are UFO and extraterrestrials a popular thing in Japan? Yeah, there is groups of people who really enjoy that stuff. Maybe not quite as popular as like Scotland or something like that, but it's still pretty popular here. And there's actually even like manga, and even there's these kind of books you can buy in the konbini where they're just like built around conspiracy theories, urban legends, or weird stories. And they've got books specifically about UFO and extraterrestrial stuff, and they're really super interesting. Like, even if you couldn't read any Japanese at all, if you open these books, you'd be like, I want to know what it says. It looks so interesting. It really does. Jason Lee says, how well does the average Japanese person understand general science? Probably so-so. Not that super great. Most Americans are not significantly literate. I'm sorry. I'm not literate. Scientifically literate. Are most Japanese people? I would say Japanese people are probably way more advanced than America with math. That's for sure, because I've looked at what kids in elementary school are doing with math, and it was like what I was doing in 8th grade. So they're always way more far ahead of us with math. Science, I don't know. I can't really comment on that. I don't know quite as much. Ramsey says, what is the influence of Yakuzas in today's Japan? Who has the upper hand, the police or the yaks? Do they impose taxes upon firms located in their districts? Are they violent, or is this just an image Hollywood creates? Should people be afraid of them or not worry too much about them? Wow, this is a lot of questions, but that's okay. I can answer each one, and they're good questions. Okay, influence of Yakuza in today's society. Yes, they still do influence a lot. Recently, there was a big news article that a lot of policemen were busted, high-level policemen were busted for being bought off by high-level Yakuza bosses so that they could get away with whatever they wanted in their area. So I'd say that's definitely a pretty good iron grip on the districts that they're located in. Who has the upper hand? The police or the yaks? I'd say still the police kind of do have an upper hand because they tend to police a lot of the underhanded kind of dirty stuff that they do. If it starts to really bother people's like liberties and welfare and stuff like that. But there was another recent thing where there was kind of a Yakuza mama, and she was kind of like a clan mother, and she had taken control of some families in her neighborhood, like literally like brainwashed them, and the police did absolutely nothing about that. So that was kind of crap, and they were kind of called out on that. Are they violent, or is this just an image Hollywood creates? I wouldn't say they're just like outright for no reason violent or just like going around shooting and stabbing people. Number one, guns are not common in Japan. Like, to own a gun is very difficult. So anything you would see like in Hollywood or whatever about them, like, you know, doing drive-bys or shooting or something, it's super rare. Now, stabbings are not so rare. Stabbings do happen. But it's still, even that's still rare. I would say where they are the most violent, and this is, you know, probably not something you're going to get into as a gaijin, but a lot of, I guess, downtrodden Japanese people do, is loan sharking. They are brutal with loan sharking. I've heard that's when they become the most violent and the most dangerous, is they'll loan out with insane interest rates, and of course people are in their pocket for life, and it really screws them up, and they'll come after them in very violent manner. Next says, should people be afraid of them or not worry too much? If you're a gaijin, you don't need to worry about the Yakuza. For the most part, they never bother with gaijin. There's no point. I mean, usually most of us are transient anyway. We're not staying in their country. We don't control or work with any kind of district or department or any kind of supply that they're into. So we really, it's kind of just, you know, laissez-faire, hands off. No one's into it. Let's see. Ahmed. What do you think about the rumors that say many geishas were not only company women, but also prostitutes? I think that's bullshit. Prostitutes are prostitutes and geisha are geisha. Even to this day, geishas still exist, and none of which that are proper for real geishas who've gone to geisha school, and there is a geisha school, none of them are prostitutes. It doesn't make any sense. Now, could they be bought off as mistresses? That's possible. And this is a long time ago too. I'm not saying this is recent or anything. Maybe this still happens, but I imagine it's quite rare. And a long time ago, perhaps we'd say like even before World War II, geishas were, and even back then, were just entertainers. All they did was entertain. There were prostitutes back then too, but they're called baishunfu. They're not called geisha. And anybody who mixes those two up has never really done any kind of research on Japanese history. If you've ever read that guy's book, and I know it sounds cliche, but Tales of a Geisha, that guy really did his research, man. That guy knows what he's talking about, and that's exactly the way they were. Now, also, as I said, they sometimes did become mistresses, but this is very different. This is not a prostitute situation. This is pretty much they're paid, what's called the geisha mama is paid to give them fully to only one customer, and that customer can come see them and be intimate with them and pretty much have full reign over them. But they also pay a ton to the geisha mama, and they pay a ton to the geisha, and that geisha becomes very, very rich. Only the richest of richest men actually own a geisha. And I don't even mean they physically own them. I mean, they buy an apartment for them or a house, and that geisha lives in it their whole life and is taken care of forever. Even though they have a wife too, their on the side mistress is taken care of quite well. Okay. Josh says, as far as I know, when talking about skateboarding, you haven't mentioned any skate parks in Japan. Searching YouTube for skateboard brings up a ton of videos at skate parks in Japan. Do you think skateboarding is something you'll introduce to your kids? I already have. Yeah, I've actually already introduced skateboarding to my kids, and, you know, if it's something they're really into, I'll continue to do that and continue to teach them. but it's not something I'll ever push on my kids. If it's an enjoyable hobby for them, great. Brianna says, have you been to a movie theater? Yeah, in Japan? Yeah, I've been a few times. If so, are there any unique or cool differences between theaters there and the ones in the US? Pretty much none. Yeah, they're almost exactly the same. They're big, which is kind of rare because not everything is usually as big as the US, but I would say movie theaters in Japan are as big as the US. Here's one positive aspect of movie theaters here in Japan. Food prices and drink prices are not insane. They're just normal food and drink prices. Candy and popcorn, all the same stuff is sold. You can even get hot dogs, or American dog as it's called here. And they're not insane prices. Like, they're pretty cheap, 100, 300 yen, that's it. If you tell Japanese people about how insanely expensive the prices are in America for stuff at a movie theater, they're like, why? It doesn't make any sense. So that's cool. I like that. Daniel says, how would you describe the Japanese dream in contrast with the American dream? I would say it's not as indulgent as the American dream. For the most part, Japanese people have very simple dreams, as far as they don't need a lot more than, a nice house, maybe they'd want a nice car if they had to use a car, but some don't even want a car because it's actually more of a problem due to bottlenecking traffic. Most would just be happy if they owned an apartment inside of an apartment building, which is kind of like owning a condo. But other than that, I would say maybe it's not as greedy as the American dream. Of course, they like other little electronic toys and stuff like that. They want some of that stuff. But I think having a pretty happy family is really important here. And maybe I'd say the most paramount important thing is Japanese people would like probably to be rich enough to have a lot of free time. I think that is truly the Japanese dream, is making so much money that you have a lot of free time for yourself, because I'd say that's the most depressing and downtrodden aspect of Japan, is that jobs just work. They literally work people to death here, and it's sad. I feel sorry for a lot of Japanese people who get work that hard. Louise asks, how are you today, good sir? I'm very good, thank you. In Japanese dating culture, is it common for exes to decide to never see each other again? Yeah, it's pretty common. You run into a lot of the same situations as you would in any Western country as far as exes. Some go crazy on you and some never want to talk to you again. Or can they decide to stay friends? Yeah, sometimes you stay friends too. You're right. Oh my gosh, a name I'm probably going to mispronounce. Bolivia. Okay, I hope I've said that right. I know you've covered men and tattoos, but what about females? How do the Japanese view women with tattoos? Pretty much the same. It's even more rare for females to have tattoos. But you would get the same kind of places you can't go are the same, spa world or chains of spa stores. You can't go to them. There's some places you couldn't have access to, like gyms that don't allow tattoos. It's not really too different. It's just a little more rare. They'd probably be a lot more surprised if a woman had a tattoo. David says, I imagine it is safe to assume Japanese do not push corrective dental surgeries anywhere near as much as the States. This is true. That said, how is people's perspective of dental health in Japan? Have you noticed anything striking? Yeah, there's a couple things that are really different. Number one, dental health is not quite as popular here in Japan as it would be in the States. Number two, having your teeth perfectly straight is not a big deal here in Japan. Even very famous grabia idols and talento have messed up teeth. There's no other way to put it, but they're messed up. One thing I found a little bit strange that I didn't completely realize is what you would call the snaggletooth or raised canine tooth, which a lot of Westerners would consider messed up teeth, is actually considered really cute here in Japan. Some people actually prefer women to have the canines that are lifted up, and women probably won't get a corrective surgery if they have that because it's actually a certain type of look. So that's something I was totally surprised by. The snaggletooth look. Huh. Okay. Anders says, have you watched any shocking Japanese horror movies? Did you not watch my Asian horror special? You need to go watch that right now, Anders. Alex says, how often do you see people with scars from self-harm on their arms and legs? I don't really know if I should hide mine when I go to Japan. Well, I would say you probably want to hide them unless it's something you really don't mind being asked about. As far as Japanese people, they're always going to hide them. As I've said before, Japanese people hide not just their physical scars, but their mental scars as well, and anything like that would be considered taboo. And, my personal opinion, I honestly feel for people who've had to go through experiences so harsh that it's come to self-harm. But for Japan, that's a bit disturbing. It's kind of a taboo subject for them. And people wouldn't really be open to the idea. You might find you'd meet some people who are quick to judge, unfortunately, because mental health here in Japan is still kind of really archaic. It's really 1950s America. Think of how they treated a lot of mental diseases and stuff like that. That's where Japan is right now, unfortunately. Peter says, certain measures have the... What certain measures have the Japanese government done to address the issue of less childbirths? I've read various articles online that show the younger generations of Japanese people opt to move away from the rural areas. In Japan to the bigger cities in hopes for more employment opportunities, combined with the fact that Japanese people are not having as many children. This is very, very, very right. I mean, his facts are right. I'm not saying it's right for them to do, as in the past, as compared to the past. Some are concerned that with an overwhelmingly older population and steady decrease in childbirth, this may lead to the extinction of the Japanese race. Okay, I think that's a bit extreme. Extinction doesn't happen overnight, especially for, an entire race of people. How big of a concern is this? It's a pretty big concern. I mean, they are worried about it. They talk about it a lot, honestly, and they put it in the papers and politicians talk about it. What they've done is pretty much bullshit. They started out with having money that they gave to people who had kids, which lasted up till 3 years old. And at first they were like, anybody who has a kid, we're going to give them this money, a certain amount of money a month, as kind of like, motivation to have kids. And they're like, well, we're going to put a salary cap on that. So then, my wife and I were cut off because we don't make huge salaries, but we make already too much, which it's not really that much. We're not, as you can see, we're not super rich. So they already screwed people over like that. And now they're starting to bring down the age more and more. They're like, well, maybe only till 2. Well, maybe only this ward's going to get the money. Okay, well, maybe only people in this district are going to get the money because they have the biggest problem of childbirth. So pretty much, like a lot of politicians do, they go back on their word and they don't really follow through with anything they said. So it's continuing to drop, and I don't think it's going to go extinct. Japanese people are not going to suddenly become extinct like the dodo bird or something. But as far as things are going right now, supposedly by the year 2050, the population will be cut in half. Now, this is going to cause a lot of problems due to the fact that pension can't be paid to this gray generation, the old people as you're talking about. And I think what's eventually going to happen is Japan's either going to be forced to take on a lot of immigrants, or they're going to be forced to actually pay out what they promised to these people having kids. Imagine that. Politicians actually having to do what they said. Justin says, do you know any gaijin manga artists or anything on that matter? I hope no one has asked this before. There is one famous gaijin manga artist. I don't remember his name right now. If I am correct, he is French. And he, of course, can speak and write Japanese perfectly, and that's how he has his job. I don't know offhand what manga he writes. An actually successful manga artist that is gaijin is insanely rare in Japan. People have asked me if they can become manga artists here before, which means they haven't researched anything about it. And, you may actually have the skill to be able to draw just as well as any other manga artist, which, even myself, I mean, I'm a pretty decent artist, not to toot my own horn, but I mean, it is my job, so I do have skills in the, art skill set. But even for me, I mean, I can speak Japanese, but I'm not very good at writing it. So even for me, I don't think I could get a job as a manga artist. I wish I could get more into that field, and I wish there was more opportunities for Gaijin to get into that, but as of right now, there really isn't a lot. Maybe in the future, but as for now, until more of us Gaijin Benkyo shite, we aren't going to be doing many manga, I suppose. Alright, Otaku in Alaska says, my name is Sean. Okay, Sean, sorry. I heard over-the-counter painkillers are less potent in the US. What about dental medical procedures, anesthesia, and numbing agents? Is it more typical to say, this is going to hurt a lot? Okay, so compared to the US and Japan, is that what we're asking? The question just suddenly stops there. In Japan, they're going to numb your mouth when they do any kind of like serious procedure. They're not going to just be like, deal with it, here's the pain. I would say, okay. I can answer this first part here. Over-the-counter painkillers are less potent than in the US. So you're saying over-the-counter painkillers here in Japan are less potent than in the US? I would say actually no, that's not true, because, for example, Braun, it's a cough medicine here in Japan, contains codeine. And if I am correct, and please in the comments correct me if I'm totally wrong about this, but no painkiller that's sold over the counter in America has codeine in it, right? So I would say, definitely it's stronger here in Japan. But if you go to the hospital, they tend to not give you very strong painkillers. So it's kind of strange. You can actually buy stronger painkillers at your drugstore than you would actually mostly be prescribed at the hospital. Let's go on to a second question, because I'm starting to babble on this one. I'm sorry. Second question, is it common to see people in public making dance cover videos for YouTube and Nico Nico? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Not in public. A lot of people do it in the, by themselves in their own home. You can find a lot of those, actually. Vocaloid. People dance a lot to Vocaloid and record videos for it. I think they do that because Vocaloid already has dances to a lot of her own songs. Well, the hologram does. She's not a real person. And a lot of people like to copy that and put that online. But actually in public, Japan is not so outgoing to do as such. So you're probably not going to see that very often. If you really wanted to do it, you'd probably be okay. Sam did it one time, Tokyo Sam, and it was actually a really cool video. I don't know what exactly that video is called or what channel it's on. It's one of Tokyo Sam's channels. You should go check it out. Let's take a look at what's next. Stuart says, do you drink different types of beverages, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, depending on the season? Yes, because actually different beverages come out here in Japan depending on the season. A lot of food and drink in Japan is very seasonal. Emery says, what would be the reaction of an unknowing foreigner were to leave a tip at a restaurant? What would happen is most likely they would actually pick your money up and run after you out of the restaurant and give it back to you and be like, hey, you forgot this, because they wouldn't think you're actually tipping them. They'd think you actually forgot money. I'm serious. I'm not joking. Ronan says, hey, Scott, I was wondering, would having a more contemporary or out there hairstyle color make it more difficult getting work as an English teacher? Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going with a really crazy like purple or pink, you're probably not going to get an insane, with an insane haircut, you're not going to get a job. I'm sorry, you just can't. Like if you have like a crazy huge mohawk or your hair's like pink or, super bright orange, no. You can probably tell by my profile pic I have a large chunk of hair that is white blonde. Now that's not so weird, but you still might want to contain that. Like if you can maybe slick it back, or I see you have it covering your one eye here, that might be a little too extreme. Maybe if you go for a kindergarten job, you'd have a better chance because they tend not to care so much about crazy styles at kindergarten jobs. Alright, let's see here. Do you think Japanese people, like teachers and students, would be intimidated or made uncomfortable by the edgier looking hairstyle? I think the older generation tends to be a little bit intimidated. They don't quite understand it, but I think that's kind of true in America too. Like, older generation judges people by edgier looks, even though you really shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And let's see, what else has he got here? Do you think it would be considered unacceptable for a teacher? Again, I also would be concerned about making others feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. You got tattoos, you got piercings, you got crazy hair. Tone it down when you go for an interview, and even when you work at your job. You know, guys, when I used to work in teaching, all my tattoos were covered up. My piercings come out of my ears. I put tape over the holes in my ears. You know, even for my hair, if it was super long, I would slick it back and, you know, put it in a ponytail or whatever. Yeah, you can't get too crazy, all right? I mean, you're representing the company, and you know, you're a professional teacher for the company. Now, when you get outside of your job, feel free to let your hair down, literally. But while you're working for them, you've got to meet their dress code standards. There's just no way around it. Okay, guys, that was the last question. I'm glad this was a pretty easy chunk of questions to do. And I'm going to go ahead and just give you a little bit of information here at the end. I would like it if you guys could continue to join the fan page, the Unrested fan page. We've got a lot of people joining there, but I'm still getting some questions on my personal page. Guys, I can't answer them there anymore. We're limited with how many friends who can join, and you don't get the same notifications, so I don't even notice half the time when people post stuff on that wall. We have a website up now called jvloggers.com. Spelled exactly how it sounds. Go check it out, guys. You can see the official Unrested website on there. If you could, click on a few ads. You don't need to buy anything at all. I just wanted to get a little more popular and maybe even make a little revenue off of it so I can make better videos by buying a better camera. You know, whatever. On top of that, I would like it if you guys could just hold off on the next set of questions for just a little bit. Just wait. I'm not saying don't ask questions, just wait a little bit. JFAQ14 is going to be a little bit off because I need to start preparing for the summer horror series. It's going to be pretty good. I'm going to try and hit you guys up with some really new stories, and hopefully, I'm going to get you some obake, some yurei, some oni that you've never ever heard of before. Okay? Until next time, I'm Unrested. This is JFAQ. I'll see you again.